Warning: even though I loved Leap of Faith and had a ton of fun writing this video, it managed to be the most depressing video I've ever made. Just letting you know. Leap of Faith touches on a lot of interesting little sociological tidbits across its run, so I'm just going to talk about each of them in the order that they arrive. Firstly, Granny Smith telling Apple Bloom about how much she relishes in the memory of being a high diver, but telling her that it was an unwise and unadvised choice of passion. If you've ever watched my video about how to get into analysis, you may remember how I dedicated the entire first 10 minutes of the video to basically asking the viewer why they wanted to get into making analysis videos. That's because I don't really consider this a career choice that I would advise other people to go down, even though I love doing it myself. Whenever people ask me something about making money off of YouTube videos, the first thing I tell them about is all of the reasons YouTube is a shitty employer and why YouTube popularity is both difficult to gain and fickle to hold on to. That's not to say that I discourage becoming a YouTube videographer, but I also don't want to glamorize it. If you talk to people who try to get into the creative arts, you'll hear countless stories of disillusionment and phrases like, "It's not what I thought it was going to be." Because most of the time, it takes a kind of single-minded, blinding obsession to succeed in a creative endeavor. It's the kind of attachment to what you're doing that even if it means you have inconsistent pay and no benefits, which will be true of almost all creative careers, you can't bring yourself to choose any other lifestyle. I'd like to think that if Apple Bloom had a real passion for high diving, Granny Smith and Applejack would have been supportive of her career choice. However, when Apple Bloom finds out that it's not just a fun thrill ride, she backs off the idea. Everything in the world has the potential to kill you. This is a realization I came to in high school, and I think it's one that most people have two possible reactions to. Either realizing that there's nothing you can do about it and not worrying about it anymore, or becoming obsessed with protecting yourself against every possibility. Because it's true, there are so many variables in the way that life events can unfold that the potential for death is always there. And you can do all you can to avoid germs and dangerous situations and bad habits, but internal factors that are under your control are far from the only threats. You never know how or why a germ might find its way into your body, or if some kind of accident is going to happen, or if you're just genetically predisposed to a life-threatening illness, etc. And our culture and media likes to make sure you know just how dangerous the world is because they want to play on your fear to sell you shit, like a miracle tonic that will make you healthy. Just look at nearly every dietary supplement or workout device ever, claiming that they're going to make you lose weight, get healthy, and have hard-toned abs just by using their product. Never mind how it's nearly impossible to do those things without regular exercise and a well-planned diet that fits the needs of your routine. What's crazy about the whole thing is people still buy into it harder than an April Fool's joke about changing my OC back. People have a tendency to leverage undue trust towards people who communicate through mediums like stage, television, and movies, even though those mediums thrive specifically on their ability to manipulate the thoughts and feelings of an audience. I kind of covered this subject already in my video on For Whom the Sweetie Belle Tolls, but it's interesting that this episode tackles the idea even more directly. Moving on to the main points of the episode, Leap of Faith deals heavily with the placebo effect, a psychological and medical phenomenon which you've probably heard of at least once, because it's a pretty popular way to introduce people to the intricacies of the human mind. You can literally type placebo effect into YouTube right now and get a bunch of videos explaining it. But in this episode, the placebo effect simultaneously works positively by giving Granny Smith the confidence to perform at her full potential, as well as having the negative effect of making Granny believe that she's more healthy and capable than she really is. If we let it, this could take us down a pretty deep rabbit hole discussing the powers of confidence and faith versus the powers of medicine and the inevitability of death. The best way I can think of to explain what I mean is through myself and my dad. My family is decidedly non-religious, though in the mid-2000s my dad had a big spiritual awakening. In the process of reading a lot of spiritual and philosophical books, he came across one called The Secret, which claims that the secret to getting what you want in life is to believe that you will get those things. Essentially, the idea is that the universe consists of a shared energy between all life forms, and that this energy can be manipulated through individual actions. I'm simplifying it a lot, but bear with me. By pouring a certain thought and energy into the universe, you can make that thought become reality, but only if you believe wholeheartedly that it is going to be true. The book and movie present these concepts almost like an infomercial would, but in reality, this is kind of a high-scale spiritual placebo effect. The universe does not magically give my dad whatever he wants, but by believing that he's feeding his energy into the universe and receiving energy in return, he gains the confidence to set out on his endeavors and make them real. And my dad has had a massive amount of success in his life believing in this. A problem arrived, however, in that because my dad so strongly believed in the power of the human mind and spirit to change their reality, when I was depressed, he thought that the key was to power through it mentally. I had been trying for years to do that and concluded that I was just not going to get through my depression unless I was medicated, and I eventually convinced my dad to let me see a psychiatrist and get prescribed something. And I can say this, those were definitely not placebos. I know because they had side effects which I wasn't aware of until they were already hitting me. My brother also went through a ton of antidepressants before finding ones that actually worked for him, so clearly expecting the pills to work didn't do shit. My point here is that it can be dangerous to trust the placebo effect alone, because the mind is not all powerful. If I break my arm right now, I don't think anyone's going to tell me to will it back together, and there are some unseen physical ailments, such as chemical depression, that we can run the risk of ignoring by thinking that the placebo effect will fix them. Ideally, the placebo effect should be used in combination with real medicine. I've mentioned before how when my mom was in the hospital with cancer, all of her family and friends consciously agreed to never show any fear in front of her so that she wouldn't think she was dying. My mom had stage 4 Burkitt's lymphoma, and we were told that had she been brought to the hospital even a day later than she was, she would have died. Her fight got to some incredible lows, but she was always so confident that she was going to live that she fought against the cancer with all of her might. And I really do think that if she didn't have that confidence in her survival, she wouldn't have made it all the way through her treatment. Holy shit! This is the most depressing video I've ever made! I can't believe I'm talking about My Little Pony right now. Quick, Gibbon, make them laugh.
Something funny, okay, what do you call a bear with no ear? Anything you like, cause he can't hear you, haha, haha. Also, you could call him a bee, cause of the way it's spelt. You know, with the B-E-A-R. Oh, that'll get him going.
Okay, you are just the worst at this. Jesse, why don't you try?
I got a joke. It's a funny joke. You're gonna like it. Girl goes to the doctor. She says, "Doctor, I'm having these abdominal pains. I think I might be pregnant." So the doctor examines her, and after the examination, he says, "Well, I hope you like changing diapers." And the woman goes, "Oh my God, I'm really pregnant." The doctor goes, "No, you've got bowel cancer."
I don't... What have I become? While we're doing Intro to Psychology, Leap of Faith also touches on the subject of herd mentality, and if you think I'm about to draw an elaborate comparison between this episode and the so-called brony herd, then you are correct. People tend to underestimate how easily we can influence one another with our actions. When you think about it, we don't really learn anything on our own. All of our learning comes from adapting to the world around us, so really all of our actions are influenced by others. Not all of these actions are directly correlated to someone telling us to do something. If I yell, "Fuck this!" right now, it's not because someone told me to, but it's also not like I made those words up, nor like I developed a mindset that yelling "fuck this" in the middle of an analysis video is acceptable on my own. Indeed, up to a certain point, everything we learn from other people, and we kind of just have to trust that we've learned everything correctly. This trust is both necessary and dangerous, because we don't have time to prove that every single thing we learn is true, but we're also damn near guaranteed to learn a number of false truths in our lives that we're just going to take as fact. I mean, how many of us grew up thinking that velociraptors looked like this and that Pluto was a planet, only to learn the truth and be devastated years later? And of course, most of us are going to leverage more of our trust towards people that we, rightly or wrongly, believe to be trustworthy. And this trust isn't only or even primarily built on the person's truthfulness. It's built more on how much we want what they say to be true. And that can be a force of good as well. When someone we like or respect tells us something that we want to hear, it can be close to an enlightening experience, and that, I think, has a lot to do with the brony fandom's general message of positivity. Say whatever you want about bronies, all of them are different and everyone is going to have a different experience with them. However, there is no question that on the whole, the brony fandom has promoted and often lived up to a standard of kindness and acceptance. This is something discussed at length in episode 3 of The Elements of Brony, which you should have watched by now, and if you haven't, you totally must. The reason reason The Herd has been a force of good is that so many big names in the community pushed it that way. So many of the early content creators pushed the message of love and tolerance, and so many advertised charities and other kind-hearted gestures that it permeated through the crowd. I've seen it happen firsthand when I've promoted things in the past that grew in popularity on the basis of my endorsement, as well as in the general feelings that my videos have inspired in so many viewers when their thoughts were affirmed by my own. Even I've given to charities that other bronies promoted. But this is also where we stumble upon Applejack's dilemma. To pull a quote you probably all know, with great power comes great responsibility. The power to influence other people is something that can be easily abused, and it's not always easy to know how you should be using your influence in the right way. I've made a point to limit my endorsements in my videos, specifically because I want them to remain credible. If I was constantly telling you to go look at stuff and not all of it was up to snuff, not only would you quickly get burned out on recommendations, but you'd also stop trusting me to endorse high quality stuff in the long run. If I only promote things that I consider to be comparable to or better than my own videos, then I know that I'll keep people's hopes up for things that I introduce them to in the future. And I have had the experience in the past of encouraging people to put time or even money and effort into things that ultimately disappointed them, so I'm careful not to let it happen again. All of this comes down to a matter of marketability. Trustworthy opinions are marketable ones. When you let the opinion of a reviewer sway your decision to go see a movie, it means that you trust that reviewer, and the movie's marketing department are going to want to promote the fact that trustworthy reviewers enjoy their movie in order to draw people into watching it. That's exactly what FiM and FLAM do with Applejack. They take her reputation as the most dependable of ponies and make it into a marketing gimmick, which in all fairness would be a great idea if their product was actually up to snuff and Applejack wasn't the equivalent of a studio paid reviewer. The Flim Flam brothers convince Applejack to lie to the public under the basis that ignorance is bliss. This falls in with the smarm effect, like when people say things like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Either one is an extreme stance to take, and like everything else in life, sticking to one extreme is going to be dangerous. The other extreme would be hardcore social Darwinism, where we say that people who don't know better deserve to be tricked, which isn't helpful either. What we need is an ideal middle ground. Help people to understand the world around them with all of its harshness, and give them the tools to deal with that harshness. Don't tell people what makes them happy, tell them what is going to help them to become better people. And I think that about wraps up what I've got to say about this episode. I'm sorry that this video is so late, and the next one is probably going to be late as well. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing with my life right now. My girlfriend and I just broke up, my channel isn't getting nearly as many hits as it used to, and I can't figure out how to promote my video game and anime videos. I've got no plans for the future, and it's kind of causing a minor existential crisis. So I might take a break from making videos for a little bit to play through a bunch of video games and do other weird shit with all the free time I have now, or I might make a ton of new videos as soon as a burst of inspiration hits. I really don't know. But I do want you guys to understand something. I'm not making these videos to show off or to be some cool smart guy or to depress you or to fuck with you or anything like that. I just want to invite you in. This is the only way I really know how to communicate with people, so for those of you who stick around and still watch these videos like the conversation that they're meant to be, I extend my sincere thanks. See you next week.
Applejack brings the motherfucking muscle. Matt and Sully bring the motherfucking hustle. This ain't about love and toleration. This about taking out the whole entire nation. This about grabbing all the haters by the throat and bitch slapping their asses till they can't hate no more. And you know it, Master D, that's the voice you heard flowing. Getting demonic on the motherfucking track. Oh, who am I kidding? This act is really fucking whack for you.
Swag, 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 swag.
I don't even know what swag means on the real though.
I'm pathetic. Call me the guy, the funny guy, and I failed. But you know, you really shouldn't be sad, guys. It's okay. When every pot of gold has a silver lining, which is less valuable than the gold, but you know, you can't ask for too much. You gotta take that silver. When life gives you lemons, silver lemons, and you make silver lemonade, and it poisons everyone because people can't eat silver, and they you know, your grandma chokes and dies. It's not your fault. You know, at least you tried. At least you tried to make something out of that pot of gold, because someone else took the gold and you left with the silver lemons. Because at the end of the day, if you don't make silver lemonade when you have the opportunity to, you're just gonna end up doing nothing for your entire life. I mean, sure, you get sent to jail for murder, but in some ways, murder's not so bad, you know? It's... Oh... Digi, I didn't do it right. I made myself sadder. Oh, fuck, this is awful.
My mom had cancer. I took her shopping to cheer her up. And, you know, she didn't like any of the tombstones I picked out for her. Oh, man. That's the same as the last one, too. The joke is that her death is pretty much set in stone. Literally. Hey! Hooah! Oh, man, okay. I got another doctor one, okay? So the doctor says to the woman, I have some bad news. You've got Alzheimer's and cancer. And a couple seconds pass, and the woman goes, well, at least I don't have cancer. Oh, God. But seriously, folks, you know, I take my hat off to cancer survivors, I really do. So I can shove it in their face that I still have hair. Hooah! You know, but seriously, people, don't be offended, you know. Dark humor is sort of like cancer. Not everybody gets it. Hey, okay, that's my time, everybody. I'll see you. You've been a great audience. You've been great.